Good morning, everyone. This is Keith Wayland from RPI Consultants. I'm here with Todd Stratton, VP of Product Development from Infor, very special guest, and Mr. Richard Stout, our head of the technical Infor practice. You are here for a webinar on the top 11 reasons to move to CloudSuite v11, which we might as well call the 11 most exciting things about CloudSuite.
Yeah.
Very short informational webinar. We will be recording it so that you're able to share it with your colleagues, and we sure hope you do. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Real quick about RPI, for any of those of you that don't know us, we are a professional services firm. We've been around for 20 years, basically, and we specialize in the Infor CloudSuite space. Today's agenda, we're going to keep it real simple. It's about 11, and we're going to take questions. All right. And the number one reason to be excited about version 11 is?
The number one reason is mobile access to the application. An application that's built and deployed for the way that the modern workforce wants to interact with it. Mobile has been a demand from the ERP space for years. Legacy systems, it's been very difficult from an architecture standpoint to get that deployment out there. Infor has really put a lot of forethought into building a platform that makes it easy to deliver these solutions on any kind of device. So that's what's impressive. Not only that there are a whole bunch of mobile optimized websites in the application right now. I mean, even looking at requisition self-service, which looks pretty good on a phone, but they are continuing to bring out new function-specific websites, and we're looking forward to the unified Infor mobile app that's going to get announced at Inforum this year. I mean, there's great strides, and there's a lot to look forward to in the mobile space.
And that Infor Go will be a total support for native iOS and Android, so we're excited about the value that'll bring to customers.
The number two reason to be excited about version 11.
It's a process-built system, right? When we look at Lawson. Lawson is essentially a transactional database that's got some forms overlaying it so people can interact with the system. We've all been out there working with Lawson, and if you think about, say, implementing a process with Lawson, you might sketch out a workflow graph of, I need to get this information, I need to validate this, I need to key it into the system, but maybe I'm missing a master record I need first, so I need to get that entered. To Lawson, those are all independent, separate transactions, and it's really up to the business user to understand how they all connect. But Infor CloudSuite Financials has a little bit of Lawson in its DNA, right? Infor CloudSuite Financials was built by people who have implemented Lawson and been out in the field and seen how people actually use the system. So they were able to build out a new system that understands the processes end to end and walks users through what needs to happen. And that means that process is maintained and monitored right within the application. And the application understands where we are in the process and what's coming next.
Stout, one of our customers put it best. Jim Ollerton at Elsinore Valley Water, Director of IT, he said, CloudSuite Financials is new, and it brings a lot more value than what he's had in the past, but it's familiar for that very reason. It's got kind of some Lawson DNA in it. So
I love it.
Customers have given us great feedback on that.
So number three also ties into those consultants that spent a lot of years implementing Lawson Financials and found limitations in the general ledger structure. And in version 11, we have a significantly expanded GL code block that's highly flexible, that's optimized so that you can report on it, the users themselves, through self-service BI. You can have many roll-ups, many hierarchies, many calendars, all embedded into the system and accessible to everyone. Because as Mr. Stout is fond of saying, you shouldn't have to take the data out of your financial system to actually report on it.
That's right.
Likewise, over on the HR side, we have a structure that allows you to have your actual HR structure and not the one you had to shoehorn into Lawson.
Yeah.
And obviously that has a lot of positive consequences for you in terms of your supervisor, your organization, your approval structures, all of that updating automatically when you can have something that's truly reflective of the way that your organization works.
Even that the entire application is tied back into the HR structure, I think is really impressive. And there's a lot of benefits from that when you look at even buyer records, invoice processors and approvers. Everything ties back to a resource, and that resource could be an employee or a contractor or some other relationship to the organization, not just what Lawson had to offer.
That's really the beauty of it, is one solution that crosses the chasm from financials to supply chain to human capital management and beyond. So we're very proud of it.
And very specifically, one of the significant improvements was in open enrollment. So this is one of the things I'm most excited about with version 11. Modern open enrollment experience, the ability to configure all this without a ton of technical work or need to have dependent elections be based on other elections that you have in there, the to attach information, to change the text around it, to save in a draft form because you need to, connect with your spouse or significant other to find out what the elections are that you want, and some beautiful dashboards to manage this all. This is a huge improvement over Lawson 10. And I recently got the question, isn't that available in current Lawson today? And the answer is no. There's open enrollment, but it doesn't look anything like this. Number 6 reason to move to version 11
is we can manage all our invoices in one place. Back in 2006, we were helping organizations build out AP shared service centers, and we built a process using document imaging and workflow tools that really existed outside of Lawson. And it was only the very end of that process where we got to the AP20 screen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But that's crazy. I mean, let's take a look at how modern finance and AP departments work. They need to be tied into their financial system from the very beginning. And as I mentioned in our process or workflow-based concept, CloudSuite Financials, the payables module, really manages the getting an AP invoice brought into the system, storing the image of that paper if it did come from paper, offering data capture, managing maybe creation of an AP vendor if that's a prerequisite for an invoice, gathering GL coding. All of this stuff is happening right within the application, which means you have visibility, you have a single source of truth, continuous audit log, and you can take advantage of all the workflow, the mobile access, everything else we're talking about here. You can all take advantage of right within payables module.
The workflow is key as well, is that being able to have a manager that can reassign workload if a certain AP processor is out sick or on leave or behind, really puts the power in the team's hands.
Absolutely. The number 7 reason to move to CloudSuite version 11, integrated solutions. That's where it's at.
Yeah, so particularly in the HCM suite, there's enormous capability now in CloudSuite HCM that wasn't present in Lawson HR. And in the past, other organizations have had to go and shop for best of breed point solutions to solve problems like, how do I manage performance appraisals, or how do I have a great open enrollment experience? What we found though is bringing those other applications in caused a lot of headaches for our clients' IT departments. They create an enormous portfolio of applications to manage with different deployment scenarios, different maintenance and service contracts, different end-of-life dates, and a huge mess of interfaces and integrations to try and get that master data replicated out in all these different systems. And there's a huge advantage of just being able to take advantage of that functionality right within the system. It's tightly integrated. It's built upon the HR org structures we have in place. And Infor's really brought it to the table in terms of the quality of these solutions too. I mean, they go head to head with what we would consider best of breed applications.
It's really part of our strategy, Stout, is trying to bring more and more value into the ERP. Stout gave an example on the HCM side. On the financial side, We recently leveraged what we've been doing in manufacturing industries for years by having cost accounting created and pulled directly into CloudSuite Financials version 11. So that just comes out of the box. You know, if you're a customer today that's using a Strata bolt-on or something like that, you know, you can really come up with a plan to move away from that bolt-on, because now it's just all in CSF v11, directly embedded with the GL, and provides tremendous value.
Oh, snap. Here's a list of interface developers Todd's team's putting out of work.
Yeah.
The number 8 reason to be excited to move to version 11.
Data-driven decision making is enabled by CloudSuite because it really reduces the barriers that end users have to getting access to the data they have in the system.
Directly.
Yeah, they have direct access, and they're able to easily bring things together and do some analysis. You know, when you think about the Lawson model, if I want to pull a list of vendors out of the system, I might go run a back office report and then maybe drop that in a CSV, bring it in Excel. But maybe I want to relate that to some purchasing history too. So I might bring in, you know, another canned report or maybe a crystal report, bring that in. May have to move it into Microsoft Access at that point to start relating the data. Yeah. The great majority of those type of reporting requests that require a business analyst, they require a whole afternoon of wading through, just getting the pipeline set up to access the data before I can start thinking about it. Those are right at your fingertips, because right within the web interface of CloudSuite HCM, CloudSuite Financials, I can grab any list view. I can bring in related columns using the data model that's already in the system, and I can easily pull that out as an Excel file. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Beyond that, we have a much improved add-in to Microsoft Excel. We have a self-service BI, so we can get all the data in the cubes and do our own analysis right there. We've got a ton of pre-delivered widgets and reports that we have access to.
The only other thing I'll add is that with Infor's acquisition of Burst about 2 years ago, Burst has always been, prior to being acquired by Infor, in everyone's top right-hand quadrant for sophisticated enterprise analytics use cases. And what we've done is taken that best-in-breed for enterprise reporting and literally baked it into CloudSuite Financials version 11 and Human Capital Management version 11. So there's a lot of power there as far as operational reporting, dashboards, mobility that just come out of the box with the v11 suite.
And one of the favorite things in our consulting team with Burst is its ease of use. And at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock today, we will have presentations co-presenting with Infor to talk about that solution.
Super.
The number 9 reason to be excited about moving to v11 is because, I mean, who maintains their own IT infrastructure?
Yeah, seriously, we worked with a lot of clients that run the Infor, version 10 solution on-prem, and I think probably a lot of people watching us today understand what it's taken to build out these environments, to deal with end of life at the operating system level or the database level. There's just a lot of work of just keeping the solution up to date on-prem. And that's if everything goes perfectly, never mind, the support staff to respond to incidents or unplanned outages that occur. Also, there's today, IT security is more important than ever. And
who's at the forefront of that?
And right, who's at the forefront of that is Amazon, and with Amazon Web Services. It's very challenging for organizations of our size to have that same basically government level security as domain knowge, right? We don't have a lot of like PhDs on staff in that area, but guess who does? The organization that Infor partnered with for cloud hosting.
It's really the new model for ERP. As our CEO Charles Phillips likes to say, friends don't let friends build data centers. And the value that our customers get is that we're able to invest directly into the application. We don't worry about databases and servers and infrastructure, and by default, our customers don't need to worry about it either. That said, there are going to be some customers that want an on-premise deployment, and our products are essentially one solution that can be deployed two ways, either on-prem or in the cloud. We'd be happy to talk to
Absolutely.
you about the trade-offs there.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if you want RPI's recommendation, Infor sticking to their core competency, Amazon sticking to their core competency, and you guys should as well. The number 10 reason to be excited about version 11 is to stay ahead and sleep soundly. What are the quickest ways to end up with a new ERP? Get acquired while on dated technology. Merge while on dated technology. New leadership not used to dated technology get hacked due to dated technology.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our recommendation is stay ahead and sleep soundly.
If you don't have a plan to move forward to CloudSuite, probably somebody in your organization has a plan to move forward to something else.
There you go.
That's right.
Number 11 reason to be excited about CloudSuite.
Yeah, so it's all about product maturity. We're so excited. You know, it's only been 30 months since we had the full release of this product back in September of 2016. But since then, I mean, look at all these milestones. We've crossed over the 100 customer mark recently, up to 106 customers for the product. For CSF v11. HCM's been around even longer. I mean, HCM has a track record in the market. We have customers that are looking at different alternatives in the market, and they're picking HCM with Infor because of its advantages and advanced features compared to the competition. The other thing that we've seen too, especially with the newer product, CloudSuite Financials version 11, is that very large organizations have come on board. Some have been previous customers of Infor, some have not. They were not customers of Infor. They unplugged solutions like Oracle and SAP and came to us. But the thing that the broad customer base needs to understand, when these large organizations select a product such as CloudSuite Financials version 11, they're doing their due diligence on the product. They're going deep in the product, every nook and cranny, financials, supply management, HCM, and they're essentially doing your due diligence for you. You know, you would want to do your due diligence, but take comfort in the fact that some very large organizations have really beat the tires on the solution and decided to go with it because of its capability. One last thing is that v11 payroll is also coming. So, you know, we started with the HCM suite and getting it to the version 11. We followed that with CloudSuite Financials and getting that to version 11. And some customers, rightly so, have said, hey, you know, we want to wait until we see line of sight to v11 payroll. Mm-hmm. That line of sight is now here. So this year we're having 3 releases for v11 payroll, one in July, one in September. Infor is going to be deploying the product in September. So our CEO, Charles Phillips, will be getting paid by the new v11 payroll. And then in December, we will see broad general availability for the customer base as a whole. So like Stout says, with the HCM and the financials and supply management pieces that are in place today and v11 coming, payroll, it's time to develop that plan.
Absolutely.
And determine when do we want to start, when do we want to have discovery, when do we want to partner with somebody like RPI to deploy and get that planning going now.
Absolutely.
Informed prediction. Charles Phillips holds up his pay stub and says, "Now witness the power of this fully operational battle station."
Bonus reason to be excited about version 11.
It's the gateway to the future.
It is.
Right? So we don't know what's coming next in the space. There are a lot of innovations. There's a lot of stuff that we're looking at today that even 10 years ago, you know, we wouldn't have imagined. Mm-hmm. But if I were going to build out, you know, artificial intelligence to bring that into decision making and recommendations to help with continuous close and inventory intelligence and all of these other practical applications, I wouldn't start by, you know, investing in maybe a Cray supercomputer to do all that number crunching on-prem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not just Infor, but obviously the cloud version of CloudSuite that is going to give you access to all this stuff in the future. And definitely, again, as Todd pointed out, CloudSuite is available on premise, mm-hmm. but we recommend, you know, going where the future is going to be.
Yeah, but if we look at things like Coleman and Data Lake, I mean, you're basically bringing Amazon innovations that are out there into the ERP market space and making them available for a practical use. You're giving a practical use case to these pretty high-tech things that are out there that we're not really seeing in the business space other than right now with Infor.
Well, and exactly what Keith and Stout are saying is what customers are electing to do, because I'm proud to say that, out of the 106 customers so far signed up for CloudSuite Financials version 11, 90% of them have selected the cloud deployment. So that's just a data point that is resonating with us, because it means that the cloud value proposition is resonating with customers as well as the value of the product and the application.
Absolutely. So, quick summary. There are many, many business drivers to V11. It's a very unique opportunity because it does share that Lawson DNA. It's very familiar. It allows your organization to take advantage of all the intellectual capital it's built, but it is a significant leap forward as a result of a massive development investment that Infor made. And, there's no reason not to go take advantage of that and stay on your old ERP. Questions?
We have questions. First one, and more coming in. Are the delivered dashboards in CloudSuite burst driven? What's the strategy for burst and CSF as delivered?
Yeah, so I can start with that one if you want to add.
Sure.
You can. So basically what we've done is Burst is a very sophisticated solution for enterprise reporting and analytics. What we've done is we've taken a slice of Burst, not all of Burst, but a slice of Burst, and really embedded that into CloudSuite Financials v11 and also HCM v11. And we have some targeted capabilities around dashboards, operational reporting, mobile, and things like that really give the basic tool set to customers of those products. We also have some advanced capabilities for Burst. If customers want to mix their Infor financial data with non-financial data, say it's a hospital that wants to marry it with clinical data, we have some optional add-on Burst solutions that can help with that as well. But that's basically what we're doing. And yes, the dashboard capability in the CloudSuite solutions is driven by Burst, because that is the most robust solution that we can provide to the market.
Yeah, and I might just add that there are a lot of report or BI technologies in play and available as part of the Infor OS platform. It's been it's been dynamic, right? I mean, you keep moving the solution forward. As far as what's coming out of the box and what you're seeing, when you log in and access one of those role-based dashboards, what you see and the data that's available and how it's presented is more important than the technology behind it. Right. So I wouldn't get too hung up on hey, is this coming from Burst or is this coming from some other tool? It's what's important is that it's there and it's already created and it's available. It ties into your role-based security. It's basically live analytics coming off of your system. And then when you go to extend that and create some custom analytics, you have Burst as well as a number of other tools at your disposal to take a look at, hey, for this particular use case, for the data I want to get and the way I want to analyze it and distribute it, what's the best tool for that job?
Exactly.
Just in case we're having some connectivity issues when the
you should go back
done.
there. I think it was.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, more questions. What is the difference in 11 with list view versus what we had with Smart Office?
I think they're pretty similar. They share a lot of similarities. I think specifically with list view in 11, you basically are. This is something that I think maybe this innovation started on the Lawson 10 side, right?
Right.
And even like a few years ago, we had the option of, say, you go to like PO20 or AP10, and rather than seeing a blank form and then having to do a lot of effort to go locate one record, it would bring up a list of transactions with some pretty wide open criteria, and then allow you to start narrowing and filtering that down. So I think we see that as a concept moves forward into 11, and generally with version 11, everything's like list view enabled. You've got your data level security happening behind the scenes, so people are only able to see the records they've been authorized to see. And you get some pretty easy access to some filtering criteria. It's very straightforward, very easy to narrow that list view down, get at the rows that you need. It's very easy, like one click, to basically bring that subset out to an Excel file. You've also, what I think is super cool, is the ability to add new columns. And it's not like, oh, there's maybe 3 or 4. You got, generally with these list views, due to the working through the built-in relations, you'll have like 100 additional columns as a possibility to add to any given list view. So you can bring that in, organize it, you can save that, and you can share it too.
The other thing I'll just point out, and Stout mentioned this earlier, is it's just there. It's just embedded in the application. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be in an outside tool. And a little trivia, in financials and supply management v11, we have over 4,000 list views today. Yeah. So sometimes customers, especially coming from a Crystal environment, they're like, what am I going to do with my 7,842 reports, of which half of them I don't even use anymore, right? Yeah. And so just when you're in the application, those 4,000 list views all become reports on demand. So Absolutely. It's very powerful.
And I'll also add that Smart Office is a thick client, right? I mean, so this is we're talking about the soft client here that has these list views.
All that works through the web today, but previously it required a thick client.
Well, everybody gets it, right? It's not something you have to purchase.
Right.
It's like ragu. It's in there.
It's a feature of the product.
Yeah. Okay, next question is you're going to probably love, because I think you just answered it. What happens to all of those RW reports already built?
Yeah. Well, what we do,
recycle them, right? Yeah. We have a big RW recycle bin back here.
Yeah, we are far beyond RW100 in this solution. So it's kind of like, an analogy might be, what happens to the cassette player that I had in my 1995 Camry? We replaced it with something better, Bluetooth and a lot of new capabilities. So there's not a short answer to that, but Stout used the phrase the toolkit. Whether it's list views, self-service, burst capabilities, the toolkit is so far advanced compared to RW100 and those kind of legacy toolkit items. And
particularly financial reporting. Right, I think it's super strong, and easier, just more intuitive. Right. Like RW, there's a pretty high ramp up there to get good at that.
Just a side note, looks like we've had a little network issue off and on here. No worries, the recording is on a separate camera, so everything will be captured if you've missed part of this. Continue that, we'll get a couple more questions.
Our network team will be flogged after the webinar.
Exactly. Has blockchain technology been incorporated into version 11?
Not at this time. So blockchain, there's a lot of buzz around blockchain in the industry. Our challenge is, how do you break it down into meaningful incremental functionality beyond the supply chain capability that we have today? You look at one of our key competitors, Workday. Some people say they have about 20% of our capability in supply chain today. And so we're constantly looking at blockchain. Where can we leverage it? Where does it make sense? And kind of getting beyond the hype and getting down to practical applicability to customers.
If you had to make a guess of where blockchain might come in the Infor space first, would you think maybe GT Nexus?
Well, it is more guided on the kind of the non-services industry side. So CloudSuite Financials version 11 and HCM version 11 as a suite are really targeted to services industries, healthcare, retail, public sector, financial services. Mm-hmm. Whereas yes, on the GT Nexus side, where you've got companies that really address the entire value chain from raw material to manufacturing to distribution to retail. It really comes into play more there.
I mean, blockchain's about having a trusted audit log crossing different parties, right? And I think that's a use case that makes a lot of sense. A lot of the areas that we work in, we're in a much more contained environment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to skip down because this kind of follows up to a question we had about, as far as the list views go, does security access still control what data is being accessed? What more can you explain to me about security control?
Yeah, so we have very sophisticated role-based security in the system. So, let me pick a role. If you're a purchasing manager, what the customer does is they configure during their implementation, with the help of somebody like RPI, what is it that our purchasing manager should have access to from a security perspective. We do provide a template for that, but that can obviously be configured by the customer. They may not want to go with the template, they might want to expand the template, contract the template. So if you think about that, for every single role, there's over 70 roles in financials and supply management. It all ties back to security. So you're not going to have a purchasing manager seeing things in the assets area or vice versa. It really all starts with security that's embedded into the system.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with loss and security, I think you'll see a lot of the same concepts move forward. So the idea that you can control what screens or parts of the user interface people have access to. You can control which data sets underlying the user interface people have access to, no matter how they attempt to access that data. And then there's data level security as well. So you can bring, take only subsets of data available to any particular user based on where they are in the organization.
Next, you have a request to repeat the dates for version 11 payroll.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we have 3 releases coming this calendar year in 2019. July is the first release. Then in September, that's the release where Infor, our own company, who's a beta and early adopter of version 11 payroll, will be deploying it.
Over 3,000 employees, is that?
Over 16,000 now.
Over 16,000.
So yeah,
It's a big company.
Big company, and even our CEO, Charles Phillips, will be getting paid by the new v11 payroll. And then in December, that's the date we're looking at for broad general availability of the product.
Okay, questions continue. Does Coleman amalgamate anticipated content input based on just what customers at the company typically input, or does it pull in typical inputs from other organizations?
So yeah, I mean that's really up to how you are set up as a customer, right? With the Infor data lake, you can have your Infor data that's in the data lake. You can have non-Infor data in the data lake. And if that's the case, you can tap that data with Coleman and apply its digital assistant capability, machine learning capability. It really just depends on the data you have. But yes, that's definitely the intent with Coleman.